Welcome to Good Horses, Stories of the American Quarter Horse. I'm Jim Jennings.
And I'm Bobby Loran. We're excited to bring you the stories of the horses that have made a lasting impact on some of the most legendary figures in the quarter horse industry. Each episode, we'll hear about the horses that challenged them, taught them, and left a special mark on their lives.
From remarkable lessons to unforgettable rides, these are the stories that celebrate the heart, soul, and horsepower of the American quarter horse.
This podcast is brought to you by the American Quarter Horse Association. Let's get started. We're back with the Good Horses podcast. I'm Bobby Loran, and I'm here with Becky Newell, who's the editor-in-chief of the American Quarter Horse Journal. Jim couldn't be with us today, but we're going to have a great time. Let me tell you, we have someone that is very special that's on with us today. This lady needs no introduction at all. We're here with Katie Van Slyke. She has shown AQHA as an amateur and as a youth, and you probably know her from social media. She's got more than 4 million followers on TikTok, more than 900,000 on Instagram, and more than 3.3 million on Facebook. So, Katie, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, we're so excited too. So we're just going to jump straight into it. We want to know about all the horses that have shaped you as a person. And we're going to start off with the $1 million question. So, Katie, in your eyes, what makes a good horse?
What makes a good horse? Honestly, I feel like the more quirks they have, the better they usually are. I feel like the good horses of my past and the ones that really shaped me as a rider and a horse owner made me work for it. Like, they didn't make things easy. So I think the more character they have as like an individual horse, you know, even aside from their talent, like, that usually marks a good horse to me.
Yeah, I totally agree, because some of the ones I've ridden, the best ones have been like the spookiest ones.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, they all have their quirks and it all makes them who they are. So from this horse ownership that you've had with American Quarter Horses, how has this influenced your career?
Well, I think my entire life has just been focused around horses. It didn't always start out with quarter horses. We always had quarter horses, but we started off with POA ponies and paints. And then I think when I got my first quarter horse at, I believe I was 12, really lit the fire underneath me. And it's just been my true love for my entire life. And so therefore, you know, I've taken a little bit of a break at some point from showing, but it's always been what I'm always trying to get back to. It's like the final goal, it's always what I'm striving towards, to be with and around and like immersed in the American quarter horse. And so now, even though I haven't been showing a lot lately, it's been, you know, all about the breeding and all about, you know, now stallion ownership. And it's just, I feel like it's always what I'm having in my sights, you know, for whatever's going on in my life.
Mm-hmm.
It's always what everything's about.
Oh. We were talking earlier, and I confess that I don't have as much of a competitive spirit as what we see in our exhibitors, say for example, at the World Show, the Youth World. And Katie, you're like, I am all in. I'm all competitive. Do you feel like that's what the spark was when you were 12 and you got that first quarter horse?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I will say the horses that I grew up on were not finished horses. The ponies that we got were like, well, this one bucked off all of the other kids, and so my mom was like, we'll take it. And then she would work with it, and then we'd show it, and then I'd outgrow it and we'd sell it, and, you know, we'd kind of move on. And so when I got my first quarter horse, it was a been there, done that gelding, who again had very many quirks. His name was Zip Rebel and Roll, but he taught me so much. And I had my first taste of going to the Congress. Didn't get a call back.
Right.
Not a single one. But it was like just enough to where I was like, I've got to do this, you know? And then there was many other horses that followed that, but it was for sure the spark that started it all.
Yeah.
Man, so take us through what that looked like. What horses did you work with in your youth career?
So Zip Rebel and Roll was my first youth horse. And again, that was the 13 and under. So I went to the Congress. He was very good in the showmanship, but he was very quirky. Like I said, there was lots of things we had to work through, but it made me appreciate that much more the next two horses, which were the beginning of my 14 to 18 career. While I was still novice, I had a novice horse and a youth horse. Mm-hmm. And so flipping back and forth, one of them was 15 hands flat, very tiny little Western horse. The other was a gelding named Ask Me for Details, who Karen Mundy showed, and he won the all-around twice at the
Yep.
World Show. He was an 8-time world champion. So flipping back and forth between those two, the little Western horse, his name was Global Shock. They very much made me into like an adaptable rider,
Yeah.
I would say, very
Yeah.
quickly. And having to jump off of one from the, novice youth horsemanship and then getting on the other for the youth horsemanship, it was just crazy. And it was, I don't know why I volunteered to do that, honestly, but it worked out for the best. And then I stuck with Houston, asked me for details for a while. He was the first horse I ever placed with at the Congress, ever, really saw some success at the big shows with. And I would say he is who I could, I owe my X seat to him for
Yeah.
sure. He
Yes.
taught me a lot about that. And Karen was amazing in the Eck, and really, like, I had no legs when she got me. And so I would say he definitely shaped me as a rider and prepared me for my longtime partner, which was Zip Rebel Zippin' on Top.
Okay.
Zippin' on Top, Calvin. I showed him for 5 years, and he was who I had my most success with. I showed him into my first amateur year. And again, very quirky.
Yep.
You had to work and it was difficult. Like every step was difficult. But he was so talented in so many different things. And what was a really cool thing about him was he did not show in any all-around until he was in his early teens. And then he did not have a lead change until his early teens.
Really?
And then we ended up my first year, and I had him at home. We made the finals at the World Show in the Western Riding.
No kidding.
And so he was just kind of a freak of nature. Ryan Cottingham took him to the Congress and was top 10 in the green with him. And there was over 100 horses in it in the Western Riding. And he was 17 years old when they did that.
That's crazy.
So he was a freak of nature. He was like he did not have good breeding either. He was like 16 two hands. He had won the Congress in the 100 saddle before I got him. I think his dad was Tonto Top Chick. I don't know. It was
Some
off-brand,
Yeah.
and he was just so special. And so we had him till he passed.
Yeah.
We didn't sell him. We retired him at the house, and I think our biggest accomplishment was third in the amateur Eck at the Congress. And so he was just a fantastic show partner. And honestly, after him, there was a couple horses I showed, but he was my last love, honestly, in the show pen. And so I'm excited to feel that again.
Yeah.
Yes.
What did you love most about him?
I felt very accomplished when we had a good ride.
Aw.
Just because it was so much work with
It was
him.
it was a lot of work
Right.
and a lot of finesse, and it took a lot to get there. But when it was right, it was really, really good. And I always felt super accomplished, and like there was a moment of like just pride. Because it wasn't like, oh, I know that I can just go throw my hand out with him. Like
Right.
you had to really, know him and work for it when
And
it
you knew
worked.
you got past those obstacles with him.
Yes,
and the
ma'am.
communication.
Yes, ma'am.
That's awesome.
And he was very cool.
And we talked to a lot of our exhibitors at the World Show, and they say the same thing about the quirks. He did this morning, and he did this yesterday, or he just got done having pneumonia, and then he got cast in his stall. And I mean, it's just every little thing. And it just makes you appreciate that win that
Yes,
much
ma'am.
more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Going back to you mentioning Karen Evans Mundy, did you train with her then?
I did.
How cool is it she took one of your horses and went on to win the all-around?
Well, no.
It was after.
It was so I
Okay.
actually leased him from her. So
Okay.
he was older when I started showing
Gotcha.
him. So she, as an amateur, won the all around, I believe, 8 times with
Yeah.
5 different
It's a record.
horses.
Yes.
And so Houston was one of those that she said, I'm not selling. I'm keeping him. He was her last one, I believe.
Yes.
And so there was another youth that showed him before me under
Gotcha.
Karen. And
Okay.
then she had a young horse, and then I leased him, and he taught me a lot. So I
Oh,
showed him
yeah.
for 2 or 3 years.
She was just amazing to watch win year after year, and those horses it felt like they were all very similar, and just amazing to see what she could do with them.
Yes, ma'am.
And how far she could go.
Yes. And
So-
so I felt very privileged to have been a part of that horse's journey, even though, he had been there and done that by the time I had gotten on him. But he taught me, and, we never won anything huge, but
Right.
he was a very big stepping stone in my career in life. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. So you were talking about a few other horses that you had owned after him, and I just want you to just tell us about these horses that you've shown and what they've taught you. Hot Lady Born Lopin was
Hot
another
Lady Born
one.
Lopin. She was very special. It was a very short-lived partnership with Dixie. That was her name. So she is still owned by the Pitts family, I believe. Carly had been reserve at the World Show with her, and we were very good friends and decided that since Carly was going pro, I was going to lease her and show her because they really didn't, want her out of their barn. And it just kind of worked out since my gelding was retiring. And then we saw success. We were, I believe, top 5 in the EQ at the NSBA World Show in the amateur, and which was funny because she's 15 hands and I'm 5'9".
And the
So I felt very accomplished with that since, she had done very well in the Western riding and the horsemanship before I got her, but putting something new, we did the showmanship and the EQ after the fact. And so that was, like seeing success in the horsemanship, I'm like, oh, well, it's Dixie. She's good at the horsemanship. Yeah. But the EQ, it was like, oh, heck yeah.
It's like,
how does on this tiny little horse,
Yeah.
So she was again, they're all quirky. She was not because I went from my gelding and when you have a show partner for 5 years and that's the only horse you're showing, you are molded to them. I mean, how to ask them for a lead change, like what to anticipate for them. So going from him being 16'2", lofty, he was a bit forgiving in his lead changes. I could ask him like a smidge out of time and he'd still kind of do it. Dixie, you had to absolutely you had to just beg her for it. Like you had to be like, please do it very nicely. Like you had to be so gentle and so like exact with everything.
Well,
and when you did it,
yes.
And so when you did it exactly, it was like, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. But if not, she was like, no.
Yeah. Not feeling it.
So that was, again, it's a learning obstacle. It's like you feel really accomplished when you get through it clean, or you get those +1 lead changes, or because it was like, oh, thank goodness. We got it. And then I had a gelding that I showed, and this was it was something that I was really proud of. After Dixie, I went on to have a gelding that I showed DIY. So I was like, I'm just going to keep him at home. I'm at home more. I would like to have something to ride every day. And we found this gelding named Hot and Crimson. He was local. He was, again, I'm tall, so I usually go for the big fellas. So he was 16'2", but very Western because he was a 1 Hot Crimson gelding. And he had been shown in the pleasure and kind of mostly at lower level shows. He hadn't really been shown at the big stuff ever. And I went into it knowing I wanted to sell him after like a year.
Right.
And so I worked my guts out on that horse. And we went to the NSBA World, and I believe we were 7th in they did the green horsemanship that year. I think they still do it. So we were 7th in the green horsemanship, and I don't remember what play. I think we were at the very bottom of the EQ in the top 10. I think we were maybe 10th in the EQ, but the amateur. So I was, I was excited about that. So that was a cool thing too. In the showmanship, that was terrible. We had a terrible go. No, it was a beautiful go. I spun one too many times.
Oh,
that was pilot error.
Oh my gosh.
So I might have cost him, but the showmanship's harder. It's so difficult anyway.
So exacting.
Yeah.
And it's steep. It's steep. And so that was pilot error. But he was a really cool gelding as well. And that's really the last time I showed.
Wow.
Yeah. I've had a couple of, I had a little mare that unfortunately we bred her. And so I raised her and trained her myself. And unfortunately she contracted EPM. So her movement is just not what it was.
Used to be.
But she's very fun. And so about once a year, I crack her out at a Murfreesboro show that's 30 minutes from home, and we go have fun. This year, my best friend's little girl showed her in the walk trot. And she's just good as gold, and she's a broodmare now. But so after Calvin, zipping on top, we had a couple of short-lived partnerships, but I haven't had a really long-term partnership with anything other than my broodmares now.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a different kind of partnership. but
Exactly.
Yeah, so let's talk about your broodmares.
Yes.
You've got one named Beyonce,
I
right?
do.
Okay, that
do.
name gives it all away. Beyonce must have all the things, so we need to hear about her.
Beyonce is a full sister to Snap Crackle Pop. She herself was top 10 at the Congress multiple times in the pleasure. She did suffer a digital deep flexor tendon injury in the prime of her show career. And so she was killing it in the trail. I believe she had won the Big A and the Green and been top 5 in the junior trail right before she injured herself. And so
Wow.
she was just so talented, and we decided that we had bred horses my entire life. I say my parents did.
Right.
Mostly ranch horses and barrel horses. They met barrel racing growing up, and then we said, we've shown pleasure and all around for forever. We've never had a broodmare for that kind of thing. Let's use
try it.
Beyonce. She's done showing, so let's let her be a mom. And she's been the best mom ever since then. And she now is retired from carrying her own babies, but we still have at least one a year from her, and she's
So is
fantastic.
she the pretty gray then that Snap Crackle Pop is?
No,
Really?
she's brown.
What?
No, she's gorgeous. She's gorgeous, but she's incredible. Her oldest is 4, and we're really excited about her. She's with Jason and Jamie English,
Good.
and she's fantastic.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's awesome.
very much more of like a trail Western riding
Yes.
horse.
Yes.
She likes to go a little more forward, and it has an incredible deep hock like
Oh,
none other. So
that's
we're
exciting.
excited.
Yeah, the
Yes.
future looks bright with
Yeah.
Beyonce.
Yes.
So does she have like a certain attitude to get the name Beyonce? What's
You
her
know, she
personality?
came with the name, and
Oh,
it does
okay.
fit.
Okay.
It does fit.
Okay.
She knows she's the queen. She gets a special huge stall that's just hers. No one else can have it. When she comes by, you better have a treat. She's very bougie.
Yeah, that sounds like it fits. So for you to breed back with Beyonce, is there certain like aspects of this horse that you really like that you want to carry on with that
Right.
bloodline?
So she's Aura Bessa Sud and Brandy Silver Chic. So I have crossed her with VS Code Red. That's actually her first 2 foals were bred to
Okay.
him, and that's way before I ever knew that I would own him one day.
Right.
So that's who her oldest is, and she's fantastic. So the big thing about Beyonce, yes, she was a great mover. She looked great in the pleasure, had a really big hock, and when you pushed her forward, she was that type of horse that you just push. There was no trying to hold her back. You could just push her and she'd just lengthen. So for the trail, that was absolutely fantastic. And that was definitely something she's pushed onto her daughter. But too, like she, as a, I believe 4-year-old, was packing around a youth kid at the
Wow.
World Show and making callbacks, and so she was just absolutely the best minded mare. She might be a little bougie on the ground, but when you're on her, she is so willing to please and just wants to do her job. And you can have the fanciest legged horse out there, but if it doesn't have that aspect,
Yeah.
if it doesn't have the mind to go with the fanciness, I mean, you can't do anything.
No.
And so that was absolutely something that she has passed on to her babies for
That's
sure.
cool.
Wow. Well, we're
Really
going to be
cool.
cheering you on in the future.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah, so her first 2. So unfortunately, her second foal with VS Code Red had a pasture accident, and so she had her first foal last year, and he is in Nebraska, and he is absolutely phenomenal. So Beyonce's a grandma now.
Yeah.
So her foals have not only been absolutely amazing under saddle, but we've seen one now be an amazing producer. So
Yes.
that's
Well,
you
and we
can't ask
saw
for
that
more.
with Brandy, her full sister. Look at what she's produced
Yes, ma'am.
and the mares that have gone on. So I can't help but think that Beyonce's are going to be the same.
Right.
And with the right management. I think it's not always bloodline or all bloodline. I think it's management and handling and direction and training.
Right.
So
Yeah, and there's all kinds of different thought process when it comes to raising foals, babies, all that kind of stuff. But for us, what I really like is that we don't have, too many babies, and so they're all led in and out every day from the time that they're born. By the time that they're weaned and go to their new owners, or they are yearlings and go to a trainer or whatever, they know how to stand cross-tied, and they are super used to everything. There's tractors going by them all the time. They are pastured next to cows. They're, and so with that combined with the good-mindedness and their genetics, I mean, it usually turns out pretty good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's a great way to desensitize them from a
Yeah.
young age.
Yeah.
Thanks for that tip and trick. But moving along with these broodmares, I mean, you just picked the coolest names for these ladies. I mean, RS way too cool. Like, oh my goodness, let's talk about her.
RS Way Too Cool is actually a gelding that I have.
Oh.
So his mom is I'm Cool Looking. She
Okay.
sadly passed away this year.
Oh.
But she was a full sister to Cool Looking Lady. Okay, all
Yes.
my horses are related. It's terrible. So
6 degrees of separation.
this kind of ties into my stallion that's showing tomorrow.
Mhm.
So when Cool passed away, it was very tragic. It was very sudden. She just hemorrhaged during foaling season this
Oh,
year,
no.
and it was
Yeah.
just over. There was no
Nothing you
helping.
could do.
And so she was carrying a VS Code Red,
Mm.
which on paper, because she's a full sister to Cool Looking Lady, is a full sibling to VS the First Lady,
Mhm.
who has been a Congress champion, reserve world champion, 4-time NSBA world champion. And so a few months after that she passed, and that was kind of my, like, I was really, really looking
That
forward
was
to
the
this.
plan.
This was the plan, to have that VS Code Red baby. Amy Mack Smith put up an ad for her VS the First Lady colt, who was by RL Best of Sudden.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of getting more into cutting and stuff. And so that's when Denver came into my life, first things first. And it just kind of felt right, that combination. And then a couple months later, Amy was like, well, I wasn't going to sell her, but I'm offering her to you because I don't really want her to go anywhere else. Would you like to buy Kennedy, which is VS the First Lady?
Mhm.
And it just kind of all came full circle.
Wow.
So now Kennedy is a part of our broodmare band.
That's awesome.
So
That
that's
is
been
very
it's been really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what about Ginger?
Ginger, that's Beyonce's daughter.
Oh,
so
okay.
so that's our VS Code Red. That's on paper. Again, on paper, it's like everybody's related.
Yes.
On paper, she's like full to VS Fandom Code, Snippety Snap,
Mhm.
Snap It, Send It, all of that stuff.
Wow.
So
I mean, to have that trace back to like super horses. I mean, I'm sure your future is so bright.
I'm excited about it for sure. And again, Ginger had her first baby last year with Cool Breeze, which is a really, really cool stallion. He's actually local in Tennessee.
Mhm.
So I get to go like look at him in person all the time when I go take him for embryo transfers. I'm like, hi, Joe. That's your baby.
We're old friends.
Awesome. So speaking of cool, what about I'm Looking Cool, this chestnut mare?
That's her.
That was her. Okay.
That's her.
Awesome.
And then I would say probably our blue hen of the moment is Cattails Are Blazing.
Okay.
Cattails Are Blazing is Trudy. So she was a NSBA world champion as a 2-year-old in the 100 saddle. And when I purchased her at 4, literally the Facebook post went up from the Osbergers 2 minutes before I saw it. And I was like, I will take her right now.
Here.
Like, I saw it and I was like, I have this thing, I feel like everyone would be like, oh, my gut told me I needed this horse. But I have this thing on Facebook. If I see it and my gut says it, it usually has worked out.
Yes.
If I force something, it doesn't. If I let my gut say it, it usually works out. And so I saw her and I absolutely adored her. And I love Hot and Blazing.
Mhm.
And she's by Hot and Blazing. So I have 2 Hot and Blazing mares. And so I bred her to Good, Better, Best that year. And she had a late May baby. Like it was hard to get her bred. It was like all this stuff. And she was only 4 at the time. And this May baby went on to win the Congress last year 3 times and was reserved through a tiebreaker the 4th time with Jamie English in the 100 saddle. And then this year he has been an NSBA world champion. He was just reserve champion here a couple days ago. He has been fantastic. So his name's RS Hank Why Do You Drink?
Mhm.
So that's my first Congress champion, world champion foal. And we have his little sister coming up, and no one can buy her. She's mine.
She's
Because
mine.
I sold the first one and I didn't get to be with him when he won the first time. So no one can buy Daphne. And then she has a Allocate Your Assets filly as well. So
Wow.
no, the fillies are not for sale. They're
They're mine.
they're mine. They're staying. So we'll have his little sister Penelope, the Allocate Your Assets filly next year in training. So
That's
really excited.
Fantastic.
So
Yeah.
what other prospects do you have on the horizon?
So I have a really cool one. So about 3 years ago, the Facebook gut thing. I don't really follow like kill pins or rescues. Like I didn't at the time like have any that I followed or were watching out for. And this video popped up of this mare being ridden bareback in the snow, and it was an Oklahoma kill pen. And I was like, good Lord, that's a good looking mare. And it was a 14-year-old thoroughbred mare. And underneath it, Robin, who owns Full Metal Jacket, had commented on it. And she said, this mare is way too nice. Like, what is she doing here? She's had a Full Metal Jacket baby before. Someone, like, please get her,
Go pick her up.
And so I talked with Robin. I bought her, like, it was like, I don't know, $800 or something like that to get her.
Really?
I got her. Robin helped me. She's a saint. Helped me track her papers down. And then we bred her to Full Metal Jacket, and we've had 2 foals, and they are wicked.
Wow.
So that's one of my 2-year-olds. And we're taking it really slow because she's gigantic. Like, she's growing like crazy. And so we're just taking it really slow, but she's wicked.
Oh my gosh.
And I would really like to keep her due to the fact that her blood would be so different compared to anything else in my barn, to cross with both my stallions. So, open to anything, but I would really like for her to show her, and then hopefully her be a part of our breeding program at some point.
Man.
Yeah. So that's really, we have lots of babies coming up, but as far as under saddle and stuff, she's who's going right now.
How are you going to be able to show all these horses?
I don't know. Well,
you're going to get real tired.
I don't know. So with her name's Wheezy. Her name's RS Full of Elegance. So I would really like to show her. I have this thing. I want to show Cart so bad. And I think because she's just gigantic, has this huge trot, like, I think she'd be really cool in it. So maybe I'll just have to spread out the classes with the horses. I don't know. But I'm really excited about her. And she's like, I don't think she's technically black,
right?
But she looks it. She looks black. And she's got like a star like Black Beauty. She's really, really flashy. So
that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't really have anything other than Denver, who is ready to go show at the moment. But there's lots of, like, I can get my fix with him hopefully this next couple of years while they're growing up,
Yeah.
Let the trainers show them first.
You're young for being this deep in the horse industry. What do you hope, I don't know, 25 years from now, that reputation looks like?
Through social media, and I there's a lot of mixed reviews on me, I would say. I showed it for the longest time, and I was fortunate enough to have parents that were able to get me into showing, that I didn't have to ask for a horse. I just had one as a kid. And that's not the case for all the little horse girls and boys that love it. Most of them, it's not.
Most of their parents say, oh, they'll grow out of it. It's a phase.
And so when the time comes that the kids either grow up and want to do it themselves, or the parents are on board but don't have the knowledge, there's not really an easy way for people to access knowledge on what to do, how to own a horse, how to get a trainer, what type of showing is there out there, and I think, I don't think it's been purposefully gate kept, but, I just want to make at least the knowledge of it accessible.
Yes.
And so while a lot of my videos might seem basic, it's literally
it's needed.
I feel that it's needed. And I would really like for there to be a difference made in the accessibility of the American quarter horse. And I would really like to be a part of that.
And I think that accessibility and knowledge is different for every family, and it depends on what that child wants to do. If they're roping or they want to ride English or jump, and it's just different for everybody. But I appreciate the fact that you're keeping it basic for all these folks, even if it's just people who are like, this Katie Van Slyke, she has all these animals and this is so cool, and they tell their friends at work or whatever. Those people could have that horse crazy little girl who's 5 years old and will never grow out of it.
Well, and not even just those that actually want to partake in it. But those that just want to watch.
Yes.
Those that want to come to a show. I mean, let's just face it, Western pleasure isn't really a spectator sport usually.
No.
But if you make it one,
maybe
people come to the shows, and then they buy food, and then they buy parking, and then they shop at the vendors, and they bring a little bit of life into the show.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. That's just, like I said, I just appreciate the fact that you're making it so basic and such and so understandable for these people, and you allow them to ask you the hard questions, and you're like, look, this is why we do it the way we do it.
Yes, ma'am.
I just think it's awesome.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, there's actually been a few times where I've seen, I don't usually search myself due to the fact that there are some not very nice videos out there or, comments made. But there's been a few times where I've, caught a glimpse of it or something. It's like, well, she just acts like we're all so dumb and we don't know what's going on with horses. Like, I've owned horses my whole life. I'm like, well,
You're not the one I'm talking to.
That video wasn't for you. It
Yes.
was for the people that weren't lucky as lucky as you,
Mhm,
And so
exactly.
I think it's just something that's needed. And I think a huge question I get all the time is like, where do I even start?
Mhm.
And so at this point, I post 8 videos a day, 7 days a week,
My
and
goodness.
3 YouTube videos a week. And so we're just kind of logging back to where if you type in my name and a question, hopefully something comes up.
Yes.
So.
What
That's
hard
a full-time job.
Yeah.
It's
How do you balance it all?
I'm a little burnout sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. But I have incredible help, and that's the
Yes.
thing is like I could never do any of this by myself. I have 24/7 help.
Yes.
So, and I'm so grateful for that. So much support from all sides.
Yes.
Oh,
And
incredible.
as far as caring for the horses, you obviously have people that you can really rely on because
Yes, ma'am.
you're not home right now.
Yes.
And you
Incredible
can't be there 24/7 to answer their questions.
And we're all very hands-on. My parents live on the property. I live across the street from the property.
Mhm.
It is very hands-on. So usually if one of the girls at the barn calls, they're like, hey, take a look. Someone can get there quick.
Yes.
Or if we are out of town, our vet clinic is 30 minutes away.
Mhm.
We have such a good network of our vets that we have I'm texting my vet daily, honestly. And I know there's a lot of people that have more than 30 horses at home, but 30 horses at home right now is just absolutely it's a lot.
Crazy. Yeah.
And so my girls at the barn, they were fantastic, and I just couldn't do it
Yeah.
if it weren't for that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But I feel like that's a common theme in the AQHA community is we have this village of people
Yes.
who are so passionate about the quarter horse that are there for us. Like you
Mhm.
said, your family, your
Mhm.
vet, always there. So with that, like what is your favorite part about the AQHA community? Growing up
Oh.
as a youth, showing as an amateur. I mean, like you've spent your whole life with us.
I just, sometimes I crave like this conversation, and y'all are like, let's just talk about these horses, like just horses, like oh my gosh, having someone that'll listen to me talk about horses and talk back about it. Because at home, I think they get tired of me sometimes. They're like, yeah, we know about this bloodline and we know about this, But I think just the common interest in the, like you said, having people that if you don't know it, somebody does, and if you don't know it, somebody does, and they can find out who does, and it's a network,
It
and
is.
so it's very helpful.
Yes.
And I think there's going to be bad eggs in every network, but for the majority of it, it's good people,
Yes.
and it's a good place to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's good people everywhere.
Yeah.
You just got to get in AQHA to find them.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, yeah.
Showing here at the World
Mhm.
Show. Explain to me how that all came about, and getting qualified and the plan.
This
Give me
year
some-
or in the past?
Yeah, this year.
This year. So when I purchased First Things First, it was this past early April, I
Yes.
believe. And so he's showing in the Versatility.
Mhm.
So the Versatility, it's a stakes class.
Yes.
So it's a little bit heftier entry fee,
Mhm.
but you don't have to qualify because
Right.
they're either totally maiden or they only showed in the pleasure.
Right.
And I'm not sure what the stipulations are on the pleasure. I don't
Mhm.
know if there was like they can only show up to a certain point. I'm not sure. But Denver, he is a maiden, has not shown one bit. And so it's, for those that haven't watched the Versatility class, it's like the coolest thing ever. It
Mhm.
is the Western Pleasure Versatility. They start off with a pattern,
Mhm.
and it encompasses Western riding. So it has like some lead changes, trail, it has some poles. It's got some spins in it,
Yeah.
like kind of like the horsemanship. It's based on the horse's ability to do the pattern and the movement in it. And then they do the Western Pleasure class, and then they do halter, and it's on the conformation.
And it's all one rider.
All one rider.
One horse.
And
all
when they
one
clean them
evening.
up for the halter, they come in because they do the halter last, so they're gonna be
Yes.
sweaty.
Yes.
They come into the arena with like a wheelbarrow of all of their grooming stuff, and they get them ready. They have a time limit. So it's a good time. I've watched it online before. This will be my first time watching it in person.
And the rider even changes clothes in the
Yes.
arena. It's crazy. It's very chaotic, but the audience loves it.
Yes. I'm going to be a nervous wreck. I'm going to be like, I'm going to be a nervous wreck because, obviously Aaron needs to be in control. I don't need to be in control. But not being in control, I mean, it's back to that like competitive spirit.
Yes.
Not being in control makes me so nervous.
Yeah.
So nervous. Aaron is 10 times, 1,000 times better than what I would do out there, but I'm still not the one doing it. So I'm like terrified.
Somebody's going to have to tie you into your seat so you're not
Probably.
crawling over the
I'm just
rail.
going to be like this every step.
That's so funny.
Oh my gosh. That is fantastic.
Okay, I'm dying to know about VS Code Red.
Yes.
So he's a multiple world champion, Congress. I
Yes.
mean, like, he is the man.
And it's been a really fun year to watch because he's had a lot of success as a hunter to saddle styer this year. So here at the World Show at the Congress, he's had multiple champions by VS Code Red in
That's
the hunter and
crazy.
saddle. And he's a large boy. He's
Yeah.
16 hands even as a Western horse. And so he
my
really
God.
crosses with just about anything. I've had people message me about their ranch horses here at the World Show that are by him. Pretty much anything but the barrels.
Yeah.
He's not going to
Not going to be fast.
He's not going to be fast. But, I really think the Western riding and trail is where I see a lot of his kids absolutely kill it. But it's such a cool thing about a stallion to have horses. So I think the athleticism and the pieces that he throws into his babies, it's just so versatile, right? I mean, he's going to throw a flat front leg. That's usable anywhere.
Mhm.
He's going to throw, just a really good mind.
Mhm.
Again, usable anywhere.
Anywhere.
And so you can pair him with some really different mares and still get good outcomes,
Yeah.
which is a really cool thing.
Yeah.
And he's just a good boy all around. I take it when I go to High Point, and like the first time or so, they'd kind of hang out with me and be like, okay, well, we'll just kind of hang out with you while you mess with him.
Mhm.
Because I don't really have a whole lot of stallion experience.
Yeah.
And now when I go, they're like, okay, well,
There he is.
bye.
Yeah.
And I
You're
just,
on your own.
I
Yeah.
go give him a bath, go take him out to the pasture and let him graze and, go groom on him, walk around. He's chill.
That-
There's one little alley. None of the studs go unless they're going to work.
Right.
And so,
So
as
they
long
know
as you
that
don't go in that
routine.
alley,
Yep.
you're good.
Everything's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even then, I have a video of him, like did a whole thing on YouTube about him collecting because
Mhm.
from the time he leaves his stall, walks to the breeding shed and is done with his job. It
Mhm.
is 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
Wow.
So he works about 12 minutes a week.
Yeah.
Which
That's less than a bucking bull.
I know.
and so, even that day when we went and filmed all that,
Mhm.
he ringed his head once. And then he was like, I'm big stallion. And then after that, he was done. So,
That's funny. Yeah, it is just mind blowing though.
What is his personality like?
he's a big dog.
Yeah.
I mean, truly.
In
And I
your
think
pocket.
I think that's just about anything you could want with a stallion.
yeah.
I don't. You still treat him with respect. You treat him
Oh,
like a stallion.
yes.
You're still going to treat him like anything could happen. But he might look for a treat in your pocket, and he'll be like a little nippy doing that. But other than that, he is a gentleman. So my assistant Abigail has never worked with horses ever up until this past 14 months.
Right.
She was leading him around. I was just like, oh yeah, he's fine, So he's absolutely a puppy dog, and I love it.
Yeah.
So when you got the bid on him,
Bawling.
explain that emotion. I would have been probably sweating bullets, but explain that emotion.
I had to apologize for being a little snippy during it because what was happening was I didn't go.
Right.
I did it online because I didn't really want to jinx it. I didn't want to make this whole big to do about it and then
Then not get the bid.
not get it, And so we did it from home. I don't know why I didn't think to maybe wash my hair and put some makeup on. I don't know. I looked terrible,
That
but
might have jinxed it too.
and just had on a hoodie. Yeah. And so we did it at my parents' house. We had dinner. And we were doing it in our living room on the iPad, but it started freezing in the middle of it.
No.
We had looked, because he was lot 17 or something like
Mhm.
that. And so we had, done a couple practice bids. We had gone through it. It was all working. Came to him, of course, and it starts acting up and not refreshing and, all the stuff. So we had to go to the desktop computer, which we'd had it pulled up. And so I'm like, move. I'm like running. I'm like about to like judo chop somebody. Like, just get over here. And so I like get in there and like it's refreshing. And I don't know if he's, if my bid is the one he's talking about or if, and so it's just really confusing and nerve wracking. And so my dad and my husband were like, "Don't bid again. You just bid. Like, stop."
You're overzealous.
But it was a very emotional roller coaster because I was just so amped up. And I say this, I don't mean to be dramatic, but I've never felt so certain about something than this moment. And when
it was bigger than your gut feel.
When I saw the VS dispersal sale, we were in Alabama. I was with my family on like a family weekend, and it came up. We just kind of jokingly said,
"Wouldn't it be cool?
Wouldn't it be cool? Like, wouldn't that be crazy?" And then we were like,
"Oh, wait,
hold on, what if crazy?" And so we started talking about this stuff, and I messaged Kristen, asked her a bunch of questions, sent x-rays from my vet, and was doing all this stuff. And it was like a month in between. And that's all I talked about. That is all I talked about. It consumed my brain. And the 2 days leading up to the sale, I'm not being dramatic. I stayed home and didn't drive anywhere because I was so like shaky.
So nervous.
Like nervous, shaky, sick to my stomach. It's like I've never felt so sure about something that it was going to happen, but like terrified if it wasn't going to, And there was just no like rhyme, there was no way of knowing how much was he going to go for.
Right.
And then, VS the fireman going for 2 point whatever.
Yes.
And it was like, I had to take a loan out for this thing. So it's like I had a number that I could not go past, and that was the number. And so, which it was a big number, but that was it. And so when the bidding, like, it kind of stalled out at like halfway, and I was like really nervous, and then it kind of they mentioned
steam.
They mentioned all of the frozen semen that came with him, and then it started up again, and then it was really going really fast, and then it stopped right at the number that I couldn't go past.
Whoa!
And then it just never went again,
budged.
and like as soon as they said sold, I just like bawled my eyes out.
Oh my gosh!
That's
like,
divine timing.
Just absolutely. Like I'm about to cry talking about it because it was just such a roller coaster, but it was such a blessing. Like this last year has been incredible.
God knew that horse needed to belong to you, and he was like, "This is how it's going to be."
I think so. I really believe so, because after that, I've met some incredible people. Yeah. I've learned so much. I think Christy Christensen, the manager, is going to kill me one day from as many questions as I ask her, or she'll text me and be like, "Did you do this yet?" And I'm just like, "I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm doing." Or she'll call me and ask me a question. I'm like, "What do you think I should do?" Because I don't know.
I could really use some guidance here.
And so the High Point family has just been absolutely incredible to help me out through this, because again, I bought the dang horse. And then I don't know what to do. Like,
it's like the dog catching the tire on chasing the car, right?
Yeah. Then I'm like, well, what now? Like, I had people calling me the next day being like, "We want you to be a part of this, and we want you to bring him here," and and like the whole next day, I just was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Thank you.
Like, let me take your number.
Leave a message.
So did he ever come to your place after you bought him? He went straight to High Point?
Well, because he was in Oklahoma at Kristen's house.
Right.
And then, so he wasn't even at another Stallion station. Okay. He was at her house.
Place.
And so we decided to take him to High Point, and that's where VS Flatline went as well after the sale, which I made besties with his owner. Literally, he's my miniature horse dealer now. And so we made that decision, and it was just a short drive. If he came to Tennessee, it would be 14 hours and then take him back,
Yes.
And I wanted to keep him. I would think my barn is very nice, but it is not High Point nice.
Yeah.
And so he deserved High Point nice. And it doesn't hurt to get to go see giraffes and stuff too.
Oh yeah. And that was
all
my
the
next
animals.
question.
Yeah.
Like, do you get to see him a lot? Or?
I don't get to go as often as I wish I could.
Right.
But when I do, we try to have dinner with everyone there. And this was cool. I did get to christen their new giraffe Airbnb.
Yes.
Oh,
At
saw
the
that.
open house, I was the first person to stay there, and you wake up and you literally have a
A
window with
to the
Gerald.
giraffes.
Gerald.
Yeah.
Yes, we've met Gerald.
He's just sitting there looking at you. And so finally, the second night, I was like, I'm just gonna pull this shade down for the night. I'll see you in the morning.
It's so fun.
Yeah, so it's a fun time.
Oh, yeah.
And making that decision to send him to High Point, how quickly did that happen for you?
Pretty quick.
Yeah.
I had actually bought an embryo from them like the week before, which was a Goody Goody Gumdrops machine made embryo. She's fantastic. She's one of my up and coming yearlings, and so I had been talking with Christy and Jason quite a bit because of that purchase,
Right.
and I had messaged Jason about a week before, being like, "Hey," and this is where it comes to, like, at the time I was 27 or 26. I think I just turned 27, and I was like, "Hey, like, I know I haven't shown in a long time, but I think I might buy VS Code Red. Do you have room for him? You know, whatever." And I don't know how seriously he took that.
It's like, here's this
I don't know
girl
how
that's
seriously
calling
he
me.
took that. You know, he's just like, "What? Okay." Well, she was very nice. Obviously, Jason's the nicest, and so he messaged me back and gave me some input. But when it finally happened, Christy texted me that night. I was like, "Did you actually just buy this horse?" And so then we were talking very quickly about it.
Yes.
So I think he moved within 3 days.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you go to Kristen's and
I did.
and see him?
I did.
Was it like the handing over of the keys to a new
She was so
vehicle?
gracious. And it was very, very cool. It was during the NSBA world, and so luckily they live really close, and so her daughter was showing, so she kind of had to come home and
go back and forth.
go back and forth. And so yes, I got to go over there for a couple of days and see him, and it was kind of one of those things where I was like, I can't wait for him to be at High Point. Like, I have to go. And I really wanted to meet Kristen and talk to her, and I feel like if I was in her shoes and like my baby was going somewhere, I'd want to meet the person that
Absolutely.
was taking him as well. And so we went, and they were just fantastic and the nicest people. And, over the last year or so, like I text her with questions, and she is so happily answers. And so that's just been a really cool thing.
That's neat.
And then
A
and
great
then he went.
connection.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And
That's cool.
so I feel very blessed, not just in the opportunity, but in the guidance as well.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And how old is he now?
He's about to be 18, so he's 17 this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you limit the number of mares that are bred?
Right now, we have not, due to the fact that he collects like a normal young guy.
Yeah.
So it's not really like
You're
a
not
need.
worried about it.
So we haven't really limited, just because there hasn't been any worry about him not being able to fulfill. If in the next couple years that happens, we might limit it.
Right.
But right now he's pretty steady Eddie,
Steady Eddie.
Do you ask for resumes on his future?
They have to be
Girlfriends?
registered. They
Yes.
have to, but we don't ask for resumes. So he breeds thoroughbreds, he breeds quarter horses, paints, APHC. I've actually had a couple of POA mares
Wow.
interested, which they're nice show horses too.
Sure.
Yeah. So as long as they're registered, because who am I to tell someone if their horse isn't some big to do that it's not a nice horse?
Yeah.
You can. It sounds nice to say, oh well, I want to know what her show record is, and maybe if we get to where we're only doing 25 mares or something like that, we might limit it like that. But right now, with his book open, I have a couple mares that have no show record that are fantastic, and I would hate for someone to tell me I can't breed to their stud because I have the eye and can see it, but on paper it doesn't look like much. So
I mean, there are a lot of race mares or even show mares that don't have a
Right.
single point.
right,
But the bloodline and their conformation
Right.
and their personality
absolutely,
is all there.
right.
Yeah.
So I'm breeding my thoroughbred to him this year, the one that was from a kill pen. So we'll see what that turns
Oh
into.
my goodness.
I'm excited about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for people who may not know, I mean, we will still register
Yes, ma'am.
a quarter horse stud bred to a thoroughbred mare or vice versa
Mhm.
Right.
with an AQHA.
Yeah.
And so that's an appendix.
Right. And for me, like I said earlier, with her first appendix baby, like I love that it brings in a little diversity there. And so I'm excited for Wheezy, my 2-year-old, one day to breed to either Denver or Wayland. So there is a couple mares though in my barn I can't breed to either of my studs because, and I kind of shot myself in the foot there. Like I got Denver's mom, so I've got
That won't work.
So she's Denver's mom, and she's Waylon's daughter.
Uh-huh.
She's out.
She's out.
And then I have Ginger, who is Waylon's daughter, and Denver's, I don't know, his Denver's her uncle. So like he's an RL.
That's
Her
not
mom's
gonna
an
work
RL.
either.
So I've got a couple mares I can't breed to them, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Keeps a little diversity.
And what do you do to look for crosses for those mares?
With the VS Code Red mares, I find they cross very well with invitation only.
Mhm.
His sons, RL Best Sudden and his sons, One Hot Crimson and his sons. I've actually, I think I'm going to breed to Only in the Moonlight and his sons.
Yep.
So it's a Southern thing, so
Yes.
sad about his passing.
Yes.
But I believe I'm going to breed at least one of my Code Red mares to him this year. So there are definitely those magical crosses.
Yeah.
But I do, and this, I might just be biased. I don't know. I feel like VS Code Red mares are just like their dad, are a very versatile mare
Yeah.
that can be bred different ways
Yes.
and have a really positive outcome.
That's awesome.
I feel like we're going to see some world champions in your future.
I hope
Man, so you are just a wealth of knowledge. I mean, listening to you talk about
I
your...
still don't know anything.
Oh
I
my
promise you.
gosh.
I'm so dumb in a lot of ways. It's just like I know like little bitty bits of things, and then I'm still learning so much though. And so I never want to put it out. Like that's one thing on social media I always say, I'm like, I promise you I don't know everything. I'm still learning. Please tell me if I'm wrong here. And so it opens up that discussion, and then you
Yes.
learn from everybody.
Absolutely.
So I feel like as soon as you feel like you know everything, you stop learning anything.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and how do you encourage young women who are horse crazy and want to be you someday,
Or just anyone
or
that-
just to get into the horse business?
Exactly.
How do you encourage them?
It's hard for me to say, well, just do this, because I was so fortunate to have parents that
Yeah.
just were horse people.
That made that happen for
And
you.
it made that happen. And so I don't ever want to be hypocritical and being like, well, just go get a job with horses. I don't know. But I do think, dipping your toe in and learning and being open to knowledge is the most important step. Don't take lessons for a year and then think you know it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to be open
Yeah.
forever, honestly. And taking lessons, working not just on your riding, but doing the time in every aspect of it, cleaning the stalls, doctoring the abscesses, giving the baths, turning out, doing the feed,
Yep.
saying like all of it
Yes.
is important. And
Yes.
so, if there is a barn in your area you could work at, volunteer your time at, trade work for lessons,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people out there that will share knowledge for that. But
I see a lot of that here at the World Show. Particularly the ropers. They're bringing these young men along. I mean, we had a kid here that's 13 years old, won the level 2 junior tie down against the Brazilians who are up and coming, and some of the other lower pro ropers. And I mean, they're taking this kid on the road next year.
Right.
So you've got to get your foot in the door
You do.
somewhere.
Right.
And like you said, go clean the stalls. That's what they're going to ask you to do first before they ever let you on over.
I hated it when it was happening, but I look back at it when I was a youth kid, and it's like, you're paying for training, you're paying to go to these shows, but my trainers were like, they didn't clean my stall. They didn't they had stall cleaners for the select ladies.
Yes.
But
Yes.
the youth kids, no, we didn't.
No.
We had to
It's
clean
good
our
work.
stalls. We had to wrap our horses' legs. We had to go bathe. We had to go lunge. And it's like, yeah, we were very privileged to be there with a trainer, but at the same time, again, I hated it at the time. I'm like, I'm tired, but it was so good to do,
Yeah, great character building.
Yeah, for sure.
And you learn that horse's care comes before yours.
Yes.
Right.
Honestly,
And again, I did have like a true horse show mom that like was in it grinding with me.
Yeah.
So I was not a good stayer upper on the travels.
Yeah.
And so God bless her. She got us there in one piece. And then when I was like exhausted and stuff, I did have her to fall back on for
Yes.
wrapping the legs and giving a bath or, whatever. And so I was very lucky to have that as well.
We met a mom here who came up to one of our coworkers at the coffee
Yeah.
stand that you and your horse sponsored here at the World Show. And she's like, I'm a 30-year horse show mom.
Yeah.
And her daughter, when she was 5, earned money for modeling for a ballet tutu catalog.
That's funny.
And her mom said, do you want to go buy the Barbie Jeep with this money? She said, no, I want a horse.
Oh, that's
And
fun.
so they opened her a savings account. And when she had the money, she bought herself a little pony and then just started working her way up, just like you.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
she was showing here at the show.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
It
awesome.
just gives you goosebumps
Right.
to see that whole process
Yeah.
and know that those little girls' dreams do come true.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's luck of the draw. Sometimes you have family that does it, and then you get to do it from the time you want to do it.
Mhm.
And then sometimes you wouldn't believe the amount of select amateurs that are killing it,
Yeah.
winning, and they didn't step foot on a horse till they were 30
Yep.
or till they were 40, or, and they did it because that was their dream and they had to make it happen themselves.
Yes.
So it's never too late.
No, it isn't. And these gals, like you said, the 30, the 40-year-olds, they went to college, got their education,
Yep.
got married, had kids, raised their family, got their education, started their jobs, got their career, and then they got the
Mhm.
horse.
Yeah.
But it was a dream all along,
Yeah.
all that time.
Yeah.
All
And
the-
maybe their kids showed and they took over their kids' horses when the kids
Right.
went to college.
I've seen that happen, and it's the coolest thing. It's like you root for that mama. You're like,
Oh,
I
yes.
saw you be the horse show mom for like 15 years. You get it. Like,
Finally, this is
heck
your
yeah.
spotlight.
I love that. It just seems like no matter what path you take, if you love quarter horses, like all roads are going to lead to quarter horses
Yep.
and that future with them.
Yep.
So that is just incredible. Man, and I want to talk a little bit about your social media platform. Like Becky was saying, I mean, you have this gift to educate people and from any walk of life. And like, what is that one takeaway that you hope that your audience gets from your accounts?
That's a big question.
It is a big question. That's a lot.
That's a lot to put into like one takeaway. I think just you stumped me.
Honesty.
I guess transparency on what it looks like to
Yeah.
actually own a horse.
Yes.
I guess.
Or any animal. Be a
Yeah.
steward of any animal.
the transparency of it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but there's light at the end. There's a reason we keep doing it, and it's the love of the animal, and there's more good than bad. But a lot of the stuff that I do post on my page is, I mean, for instance, when that mare hemorrhaged this year, I
Yes.
didn't want to make a video
No.
telling people she died.
No.
And obviously, I left out some parts of that didn't need to really be told, but that happens
Yeah.
when you're breeding anything, when you're showing anything, when you're a steward of any living thing. Like, it's just not always going to end in good outcome, And so I think. And it's not even just the bad stuff, but like, oh my gosh, today I've got to take care of this abscess. Today I've got to take care of this whatever, because there's something every day.
Yes.
And
it's
just
stinky and it's messy.
Yeah.
And it's gross.
Or I'm down here at 11 o'clock at night doing this, or it's not always convenient, or
No.
I had to stay home from this thing because of that horse's problem. So I guess it's not necessarily a message, but I think if people could just get a transparent look at animal stewardship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you had to pick a favorite horse.
Oh no.
Oh no, another hard question. Is there one?
Over all time,
Mm-hmm.
he's not living.
Yeah.
That's zipping on top.
Yep. The heart horse.
100%.
Yeah.
Out of the living, it's not even like my nicest broodmare.
Right.
It's not even but it's the mare that I bred and trained,
Mhm.
and she is hateful, and
She's a mare.
her name's Annie. We have like a little heart connection, and I know she like it's a weird thing. Like my trainer will even tell you, because I take her to the Cattails in Tennessee when I do take her to the trainers, and they'll be like, she won't do that for me. Like she literally will only do that for you. So I don't know if it's one of those things where I trained her wrong, and so she can just like I just know how to ask her to do stuff, or we just have this little like connection.
Yep.
So she's not she was very fancy at one point, but she's not the winningest. She's not the fanciest mover anymore. She's kind of kind of witchy sometimes.
It's like that cranky best friend, you
But
know?
we're soul sisters though.
Yeah.
So it's there's something special about it for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Her name's Hot Pistol Annie.
Hospital.
It goes along with it.
Yes, it does. Packing a little punch
Yeah.
right there.
She's
Exactly.
hot. She's hot and blazing, which hot and blazing, they can be a little quirky. I know her. I know every quirk, and I know the action that combats it. It's like, you just know that one horse inside and out. And then her mom was Vested Wishes. She was being boarded at our barn at the time, and we traded board for an embryo. And so we flushed her and put her into one of our ex-barrel mares, and then fold her out, and it was incredible. But Vested Wishes with she was a reserve Congress champion in the Western Pleasure. So this pleasure mare bred her to Hot and Blazing and got a really cool all around sized mare. And she's had one baby, and it was fantastic with VS Good Ride.
Wow.
And it's only 2 at this point.
Oh,
So
wow.
she's still, even though she doesn't look as fancy as she once did due to the EPM, she still passes the fancy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's cool.
yeah.
I can only imagine your stalls, your barns is like walking through a candy store. It's just, where do I start? What do I want first? And it just sounds like you have some tremendous animals coming up.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. We do try to be picky.
Yeah.
At this point as well, like I've started collecting my own recips, and I've just got like a pasture of freeloaders at this point. that aren't pregnant. But freaking recips are so expensive if you go through the recip farms, and so I started collecting some whenever they come about, or if one was, not in a good place, and then get them and feed them for a year and get them nice. But I don't know if that's any cheaper. But they have their own personalities too, and so it's like we've got the bred mares, and then we've got the freeloaders, and then like they've all got their own personalities, and it's fun to go along with. A lot of times when people come in that have nothing about the horses, they know nothing, they go pick out the like dinkiest horse in the barn that's like a recip mare with a crooked leg, and they're like, this one, I like this one. I'm like, well, that's the cheapest horse in the barn, but it's fun. It's funny.
That's awesome.
Your knowledge of your horses' backgrounds and their pedigrees. Bobby gives me a hard time all the time. I've been with AQHA 26 years, so I've experienced a lot, and I know a lot of the horses and the people that show at these shows, and she's like, I don't know how you do this. How do you know all this? And I'm equally impressed with you and
you.
how you know all the backgrounds on these horses, and they're like your children.
They are. And I still have, it's crazy though. I think that I'm like that, and then I go hang out with Jason and Charlie, and they'll bring up horses. And they're like, oh, you know this horse. I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah, I know it.
And then
For
you're Googling.
like, what is this horse?
It's a little learning curve. We'll get there.
So it's like I think that I know a lot, and then I go talk to someone else. I'm like, shoot, I don't know anything. I know about my 8 brood mares, but not. So that's always funny. But yeah, it's and then also it's been fun now having the 2 stallions, kind of seeking out mares that will specifically go well with them.
Yes.
So while I do have a couple mares that I breed to outside studs still, and I plan on, even the ones that I cross with my stud, I still plan on breeding them to outside stallions a little bit, because hopefully get fillies to keep to breed to my stud. I can't put myself in a hole with only babies from my studs, you know?
You'll paint yourself in a corner.
But yeah, it's been a fun time. I've collected a couple mares since the purchase that I was like, ooh, her and Waylon would be great. That would be amazing.
Yeah,
Oh
quarter
my
horse
gosh.
mom by day, matchmaker by
Yeah,
night.
all the time. That's like all I think about. My poor husband. That's all he hears about.
Oh, well, it's an investment. That's what you got to say.
Well, he's sitting there talking about what's on his trail cameras for his deer, and I'm talking about horses, and neither one of us are acknowledging what the other said.
No.
We're just talking about our own thing. So it's funny.
Hey, opposites attract.
Yeah.
You know, Jason and Charlie have this tradition when a horse that they trained, that they had in their barns, passes, and that horse has won, I believe it's won a world championship or many, they bury some of the ashes under a tree that lines their driveway. I know you've lost some horses. Do you have a tradition that you've started as far as memorializing?
We have
those
this one
horses?
spot, and I don't know that we even meant for it to become the spot,
Right.
but it's this spot and we don't even have headstones.
Mm-hmm.
We have a place out towards, we have about 300 acres in Middle Tennessee. And I think a little bit of it is because our ground is really rocky. So to dig holes
It's
and
not
to bury,
easy.
it's not easy. And you have to kind of like have a spot that isn't as rocky. And so there's a spot towards the back of our farm that is a really big tree. It's like gorgeous, beautiful view, top of a hill. And I've found that's where a lot of them end up. And it's just a really special place. And especially if, sometimes it's sudden. And so
Yes.
you have to, transport them back there. And then sometimes, you have it planned and you know
Yes.
that it's their last day and you make them comfortable and you take a walk and, you walk back there and it's a really beautiful place to graze with them for a bit. And so that's,
And have that peace.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely a beautiful place.
Yeah.
And so, again, we don't even have stones there because we honestly pulled tractors back there a lot and stuff. So we didn't put anything on the ground, but, we just know when you're passing by there's like a whole lot of really amazing animals that
Cool stuff.
rest
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Wow.
All the ones that built you.
yeah.
Bittersweet. Yeah.
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 Man.
That's neat.
So looking back on your career so far, I know you still got a lot to
Getting
accomplish.
started.
I was going to say,
know.
I feel like I've been out of it for so long, but then I have to remind myself that I'm only 28 and that
Yeah.
there's time
Yeah.
to get some stuff done still.
Oh my goodness.
I just can't wait to see what
Me neither.
we are watching.
I'm excited
too. Well, with my question, looking back on your career, what's been the most rewarding thing you've done so far?
Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry, I keep throwing all these hard
Yeah,
ones at
these
you.
are most rewarding. I think this isn't necessarily one thing. But over the last year, we have started hosting some meet and greets at like the Congress and
Oh,
We
I
did
heard
it-
about the one at Congress.
we did it last year and this year.
was long and distinguished.
It definitely
4 hours is what I heard.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
we actually cut it off as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But it was 4 hours long each day. We did one at High Point, and it was not even like a official one. It just became one, and it was 5 hours. And there's been some incredible individuals
Yeah.
that have really humbled me and the connections that social media has brought me
Mm-hmm.
because of my content and the way that they've told me it's affected them. For instance, one lady, her name was Ella. This was last year. I was her last stop before she went to the hospice home.
Wow.
And she wanted to come and talk to me before that happened. And I bawled my eyes out.
Oh,
Yeah.
Bawled
yeah.
my eyes out.
Yeah.
And so I've just been truly blessed
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
by the connections with people.
Yeah.
And so that's not necessarily one specific thing, but I feel like just I don't ever think about making a difference to people,
No.
but when they show it to me or they tell me what it's done, I think bringing light for people's lives is
Mhm.
absolutely the best thing that's come out of it.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're such an inspiration, Katie.
Thank you.
Like, wow. This
Thank
is
you.
incredible. Man.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, we have really enjoyed
Yes,
this
we've been
so
yapping.
much.
Was there anything you wanted to talk about that maybe we didn't touch on?
I feel like we talked about
Everything.
The only thing is I am very excited to show next year.
Yeah.
Yes.
We
I'm
can't
very
wait to see you.
excited to be here in a different aspect next year. I do plan on. So first things first, Denver. I think I mentioned it to you earlier that we are going to be collecting him for a small batch of mares
Good.
this upcoming year, and including a few of mine. And he shows tomorrow in the Versatility, and then next year I'll be showing him in the Pleasure and the Halter while he is being shown by trainers in the trail and Western riding. And so
Fantastic.
very excited to get back out there.
Yeah.
And you'll be here with the rest of us.
I know.
I will.
30 days.
I
Yes,
will.
Looking forward to it.
But thank you so
Awesome.
much for having me
Well,
on.
Yeah,
good
yeah.
luck with everything. Good luck at the PVC tomorrow night. And
Thank you.
we can't wait to see how it comes out. It's always a great event. and-
I will be the tense one sweating.
Yes, we'll be watching to see if you jump over the rail to just take over.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your love with the American Quarter Horse with us, and we'll be looking forward to it at next World Show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening. To learn more about the horses we discussed in this episode, visit aqha.com/goodhorses. There you can explore the pedigrees, performance achievements, breeding history, and much more. It's the perfect place to dig deeper and stay connected with the American Quarter Horse. Don't forget to subscribe for updates and follow AQHA on social media.